Yeah, what the fuck?
You see what he said?
Yeah. There was no reason for that. And then
I
people say,
know.
like, you're the one that talks shit, you know?
I know. And I just handled it. Fucking tried to kind of take the high road. As well as kind of call him out. I don't fucking know.
Uh, they can hear us.
How?
Hey, everyone.
That's weird. Okay, I gotta fix that. Well, we go live. What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to Blazers Uprise Live. We'll have to cut out that intro, but all good. I messed around with some settings in my streaming software, and now I think I gotta make sure everything is working right. Can y'all hear Eric?
Hello.
Yeah, they should be able to hear you. Okay, cool. Yeah, I just messed up that black screen, so I'll have that fixed by tomorrow for our draft stream. Anyway, we got a little bit of Blazers news to talk about tonight. We got Rodney Hood opting out of his deal. Eric's been doing the math, crunching the numbers. We will break down what that could potentially mean for the rest of the offseason. And we'll break down how that affects our usage of other assets, whether we retain him, like what number we can retain him for while still being able to use our TPE mid-level exception and stay under the tax. You know, a bunch of nerdy stuff on tap for tonight. So put on your glasses and we'll crunch some numbers in a little bit. Also, we'll talk about... There wasn't really any NBA news today. I was kind of surprised as
I
to
know,
how
like,
quiet it
no
was today.
trays. No trays at all.
Popped off last night, and the stream popped off last night. Best stream we've ever had. And it's... pretty much nothing today. No news other than Rodney Hood opting out, and there's a couple other like little things here and there, like Jabari Parker opted in, but nothing worth really talking about.
We got to get into the protections or lack thereof in the Milwaukee Drew Holiday trade as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Because that's crazy.
Oh, I know, man. That we'll definitely break that down, and we'll just chill for tonight. It will be nice to have a chill stream with the OGs after literally having over 30,000 people tune into our stream last night. That was insane. And we'll take your questions. I know a lot of you guys had questions last night that we weren't able to answer because
That's
of
moving a little slower today.
yeah, because of how fast the chat was moving. So we should be able to answer most of your questions. And yeah, that's the plan for today. What's going on? We already got 30 people, which is rare for this channel. So hopefully, people are finally discovering the streaming channel, even though we've had it for 5 months. Draft will be tomorrow. We'll go live around 3:30 p.m. over on Blazers Uprise. We'll see how that stream goes. I'm looking forward to it. Still got to put in a little bit more work to like fully get that stream prepared, but it should be good to go. Might pull an all-nighter tonight. I don't know. We'll see. But I know my energy will be fine for that. I might have to get some monsters or something. We'll see. Isaac Thomas says, can't find Woosh's account. Why'd Woosh block you, bro? We also, yeah,
He says he's on his school account and it's restricted for some reason.
Weird. Question for chat. Does my video quality look any better? Because I'm toyed around with a few settings in OBS to try and make my video.
It looks less darker.
Yeah, I have the backlight on, so honestly, that's probably not a great comparison. But I was hoping to maybe make the video quality look a bit better. That was the goal. Also, tomorrow, I should have a better webcam set up. I should actually, like right now, I have a Logitech webcam. I should be able to have like a $400 DLSR camera hooked up to the computer. So my camera should you should be able to tell a difference tomorrow if I can get that working. And I'll also be hardwired for once, so hopefully we won't have to deal with any lag. Hey, I just want to give a quick shout out to my internet for not lagging at all last night. My internet for once.
Oh, dude, right as you say that, it lags.
Really? But you guys know how bad the lag is sometimes, and that stream was popping off, and for once...
You couldn't have timed that anymore.
Exactly. See, this is what I'm talking about. This is a normal occurrence. But for once, it didn't lag. I think it had a little hiccup for about 10 seconds. That was a 3-hour stream. Bro, my internet stepped up, clutched up for me last night. That was huge. But tomorrow I don't want to risk it, so I got a 50-foot Ethernet cord, because I know that was a conversation on stream between me and Eric before. So I went and got the 50-footer. The 50-footer. So I should be able to be hardwired. It should be enough length for me to be hardwired.
Yeah, as if we love football. We're both 49er fans, though. So
we don't love football this year. Yeah, I'll be... So hopefully we won't have any lag tomorrow. Hopefully we won't have any lag tonight, even though I'm on the Wi-Fi. So, what else was there to get into? There's something else in this intro that I'm completely forgetting right now. But, dude, it just feels good right now to be, relaxed, To be, because I had so much energy because that stream was popping. Yeah, we'll get to Rodney Hood. I'm just blanking on something in the intro. Oh, yeah. Expect a couple more draft profiles tonight, one on Jay Scrubb, and then over on the NBA Uprise channel, I'll upload one on Devin Vassell. I gotta edit that more because we were planning on doing it on Blazers Uprise, but the problem is we traded our 16th pick, so now he's not really an option. So now I have to edit that down even more and put it over on the NBA Uprise account and edit out the part where we're talking about the Blazers drafting him with 16, because we don't got that pick anymore. And that kind of took the wind out of my sails as far as the draft a little bit, but I'm still excited just because I know all the prospects and the trade should be crazy. But yeah, so Jay Scrubb will post that draft profile over on Blazers Uprise since he's been tied to the Blazers a ton, and he might be a guy we could potentially get with the 46th pick. But Kyra Lewis, Devin Vassell will post on NBA Uprise. Maybe can get one more out. We'll see. And then we'll have the draft stream.
Speaking of Jay Scrubb, I don't know if you saw this, but I think it was Chad Ford kind of backtracked on some of his comments and was more like, I think the first round hype is just his agent trying to prop him up. I don't think he's going to go in the first round, and that it's more realistic that we get him at 46. And he made that recording before the trade yesterday, so still quite the possibility at 46.
Yeah, I think we can get a decent player at 46, so I'm still interested to see. And here's the thing. Neil Olshey has been great with second-round picks in the past. Let's just go down the line. Will Barton became an NBA starter, and he was a pick in the 40s, early 40s. I think it was 40th or 41st. Alan Crabb was a second-round pick. Granted, he was the 31st pick, if I recall correctly. First pick in the second round. But he was a second-round pick, and he became a role player. Pat Connaughton was a pick in the 40s. I forget the picks. I just know the kind of general range. But Pat Connaughton was a pick in the 40s, and he ended up being a role player. Jake Layman was a pick. He was picked 47th, I believe. He became a role player. There's somebody else I'm forgetting. Oh, Gary Trent Jr., picked 37th, became a really, really good role player, within 2
Pat
years.
Connaughton?
Yes, I did say Pat Connaughton. So that's 5 players in the past 8 years. And granted, there's a lot of there's a lot of years that we didn't even have a second round pick. So more often than not, whoever Olshey picks in the second round becomes an NBA role player at some point. So I know the draft may be we don't have the 16th pick, so there's not that much interest. But given Olshey's track record, I'm very interested to see who he selects 46th tomorrow. Maybe we could get another second round pick. That's not out of the question. Maybe we could trade up in the second round. If Sacramento really wants to get off Ilyasova's contract without taking anything back, maybe we could trade 46 for 35 in Ilyasova and maybe toss in cash or something. I don't know. We might be able to trade up. Maybe we trade 46 in a future second to get into the early 30s, because there's somebody Olshey likes. Maybe it's Jay Scrub, maybe it's someone else. That's the thing. Is like the draft still should be interesting from a Blazers standpoint, even though it's only a second round pick and what is looked at as like a bad second round. But I think there will be some solid players taken in the second round. I feel like this draft is deeper than most people think, so I'm interested to see what they do.
And Reese will like this poll, but he also got DeAndre Jordan when he was with the Clippers in the second round. So
he has a good track record.
Yep, and yeah, I was going to be super mad if we wasted our 16th pick on Jay Scrub, but 46, I have no problem taking a flyer on him if he's still there. That's the kind of value where he could. Like, it's rare to see a guy who has somewhat of a star potential, whether he's anywhere near realizing that, probably won't, but like those are the kind of guys that are definitely worth a shot on in the second round, because if you hit on him and you go back and like the Denver Nuggets right now are like, hey, we got Jokic in the second round, like those are the kind of franchise altering things that could change, or like Draymond Green with the Golden State Warriors, stuff like that. So definitely worth taking a shot on someone there. Now that we need roster spots filled, I assume that whatever player we pick, if we stay in the draft, will make the roster. There's a possibility we could turn it into a two-way or something. But with the roster spots available now, we can sign that draft player and then pick up an undrafted free agent, because this draft, there's like so many players that stayed in this draft, I think, because of the uncertainty with college basketball as well. So there's going to be a lot of guys undrafted. I don't know if there's ever going to be as good a Lou Dort like last year, but definitely worth looking into some of those players for our second two-way, assuming that Horde's back on our other one.
Yep. And it'll be interesting to see, what they do with Hood opting out in terms of like second round picks, and the salary things. Everything affects everything else. Everything is interrelated in terms of building this roster, because I assume that they want to stay under the tax. So going out and getting an extra second round pick. Maybe we try and trade Hazonia and get another second round pick to replace Hazonia with, and we save a little bit of money, and that allows us to resign Rodney Hood and stay under the tax enough to use our trade player exception and mid-level exception. We're going to get into that in a second, because everything kind of is interrelated. So here's the thing about the Covington trade last night too, is we actually saved money. Covington makes approximately $12.1 million next year. Ariza was going to make $12.8, so we saved $700,000 there. But we also traded our 16th overall pick, and that player was, if I remember correctly, going to make $2.6 million, because the starting salary for rookies is dependent upon where you pick them. So if we, replace that, whoever we were going to take with the 16th pick, we trade it away and we maybe buy another second rounder or something, that player would sign for what, $1 million? We'd save another like $1.5 million by trading away the 16th pick and then maybe get another second. So we saved money by trading Ariza's $12.8 million for Covington's $12.1 and then getting rid of our first round pick, which was going to be $2.6 million in salary. So we have saved a little bit of money, gives us a little bit more leeway, and that's important because Rodney Hood opted out today, which was surprising to me. I expected him to opt in. Wait,
real quick before we get into this, one more thing about the draft picks.
Okay, yeah,
so
go ahead.
I'm trying to manifest this into existence, but so last year, Boston Celtics, right?
Mm-hmm.
During the draft are like, we got to dump Aaron Baines' salary. He made it like $5 or $6 million, right?
Mm-hmm.
They give Phoenix the 24th pick and Aaron Baines to take it on. Like, do you know how perfect that would be in our situation this year?
Yes.
With the trade exception, we get an Aaron Baines type player and a late first round pick this year. So Celtics in the same situation this year have 3 first round picks, just like last year. Have a guy in Enes Kanter who fits into our trade exception for about $6 million. I'm just like praying that on draft night they're like, we got to shed some salary again and offer us Enes Kanter and one of their like 26th or 30th pick.
Yep, because
Yeah, we ended up getting back in the draft without even having to give up any of our assets or trading Simons or Collins or anything like that.
My fingers would be crossed for something like that. And the thing
Yeah,
is, I wouldn't even necessarily want to keep Canner, but we could keep him as a backup center. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, we do need a backup big man, and he could replace Whiteside. He'd probably be a little better as a backup center, but I'm not like in love with Canner's game in the modern day
right.
NBA. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
to be able to get a guy who could like fill a rotation role, and there might be burn bridges, but he could fill a rotation role, and we could potentially get a first round pick. Like, that's a win. The Celtics have the 14th, 26th, and 30th picks in the draft. So that 26th pick in Canner would be a lot like a trade they made last year. You know, if they can't trade up, then they might want to shed Canner's salary to stay under the tax line, and they don't really need him. They got Tice and they got Robert Williams as their centers. Canner fell out of the rotation, and he opted into his contract, which is about 5.56 million, somewhere in that range. So fits into our trade player exception. They don't have to take any salary back. So that's the thing. Our trade player exception could be useful in helping us not only get a player, but also get, maybe it's Ilyasova in the 35th pick from Sacramento. Maybe we could get both Ilyasova and both their second round picks with the 35th and 43rd picks, and then we could use 35, 43, and 46 in order to maybe trade into the very late 20s. You know what I mean? Like, I expect Olshey to maybe do something tomorrow in terms of like getting another pick using the trade player exception. I'll kind of be disappointed if he just drafts somebody at 46 unless we get somebody phenomenal at 46. But here's the thing. Late 20s, I love a lot of the draft prospects in that range.
Mm-hmm.
There will be somebody good at like 26. So if we could get that pick and a guy like Canner, we would be able to get a really good draft pick, in my opinion. I tweeted out my big board. Let me go to that and just kind of look at the players in that range.
Because then you're talking about 46 and 26 or something, and maybe moving up to like 22 or like sneaking up a little higher, closer to where we were at 16, and still getting you wouldn't be in the running for one of the prized wings most likely, but there's definitely going to be some guys that fall in this draft. Jalen Smith type guy might still be available.
Precious
might be, yeah.
Precious, a Jaden McDaniels, a Isaiah Stewart I'd be cool with. Sorry,
Sherman. We're getting people's hopes up.
I mean, but we're just presenting the options that might be on the table for Olshey. I'm not saying it'll happen. I'm just saying, like, something like that would be phenomenal, And I don't know if there's any other teams with late first that might want to dump a contract that would fit into our TPE. But
see, here's the thing, because last year more teams had cap space, and I think there's only 4 or 5 teams that have cap space this offseason. And of those teams, I don't see like Charlotte wasting their cap space on a salary dump. I don't see Atlanta wasting too much of theirs. They have it's rumored they're going after Gordon Hayward and people like that. They want to use their cap space to add another star level player to their core. And then I guess Pistons are the only team that I've even heard rumored to possibly be interested in taking on contracts for a pick and stuff like that. So it's pretty much us and them. And I don't think the only team I think that has a higher trade exception than us is the Warriors. And I doubt they would use that on a salary dump. They're trying to go for a championship and stuff. They're not going to take on salary when they're up against the tax. So it's pretty much just us and the Pistons that would be willing to take on a contract up to $7 million or whatever. The Pistons, if it's larger than $7 million, could take it, so they have the advantage there. But that's a good tool to have, and if you're going to be creative and there's teams looking to dump salary and maybe get enough cleared, like the Milwaukee Bucks right now, I can't think of a salary they have to trade, and they don't really have any assets, but a team like that is up against the hard cap now because they signed and traded for Bogdanovich, and they still have several roster spots to fill. They're going to have to be all like minimum first year players, and unless they like do something creative to get some cap space. So you got to take advantage of those situations. Like I said, it would have been perfect if last year was happening this year, where Phoenix got a trade exception for trading T.J. Warren. And so, yeah, the Pacers got T.J. Warren for free and the 32nd pick, and then they Suns turn around and get the 24th pick for free from Boston and Aaron Baines. So
Yeah, there's a lot of moves like that last year.
Yeah.
So could be something surprising. Here's the thing though. Let's say we do that trade. I would want to try and flip Cantor for something else.
Yeah, I have no problem with
like that. I would go to Sacramento and try and then flip Cantor for Ilyasova. And like they have a ton of power forward type of guys. They have Bjelica, they have Jabari Parker, they have Ilyasova. Marvin Bagley is kind of like a power forward center type. Rashad Holmes is kind of a tweeter big. Harrison Barnes plays a lot of small ball four. So maybe they'd be down, save a little bit of money and get a guy like Kenner in there who's cheaper and maybe more serviceable for them at the center spot than a guy like Ilyasova, because I'd rather have Ilyasova than Kenner in that situation.
Because we could do that and say they save $2 million by trading Cantor for Ilyasova straight up. So
I mean, the absolute dream would be to use the trade player exception to get Cantor in 26 and then flip Cantor in like 2 or maybe 3. It'd have to be like far in the future. 2 or 3 second round picks for Bjelica. Cantor and 2 or 3 second round picks for Bjelica. That second trade probably isn't likely in that scenario because they would probably only trade Bjelica if they wanted to save money. But if you're offering like our 46th pick, or 2022 second and like a 2026 second. I believe we have that one. We've traded a lot of future seconds, but I believe we have like our 2025, 2026 second, something like that. Maybe you can get Bjelica, and that would basically be our trade player exception and some future seconds for 26 and Bjelica. Like, that's the dream. You know what I mean? And then we can get excited about who we drafted in the first round. And we get Bjelica, but that's not likely. That's just the dream. That's just the optimistic side of me.
Would you do? I mean, I'm sure you would, but you could just make it a 3-team trade and send 26 and Cantor to Sacramento, Bjelica to us, and Boston saves salary. I don't know. That might work.
Yeah, I mean, if you did it my way, you would have like a 1.6 million TPE, but that's kind of irrelevant,
this year.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I hope Olshey gets creative. Like, I hope Olshey kind of made a splash move, but it wasn't like a creative trade. You know what I mean? I hope Olshey gets creative and turns the TPE. Here's the thing. My final grade on this offseason, a big part of it will be if he can turn the traded player exception into a good haul of assets. He needs to maximize the asset yield that he gets from the traded player exception. Maximizing that would be doing what I just suggested. Like, the most he could do with it would probably be like finding a way to get the 26th pick and Cantor from Boston. Boston might want off his salary just like they wanted off of Aaron Baines' salary and were willing to trade the 24th pick last year in order to get off Baines' salary. The 26th pick in Cantor, and then turning Cantor in seconds into Bjelica and getting Bjelica in the 26th pick for like the TPE in some seconds. Like, that would be a great asset yield from the trade player exception. They at least need to get something for it, in my opinion. Like, Ilyasova, straight up, I'd be cool with that. Ilyasova in 35 is certainly possible. I think if they want off Ilyasova's contract, which I feel like they would, because they want to save money and they have a logjam of bigs. I just named them: Holmes, Bagley, Jabari Parker, Harrison Barnes plays a lot of small ball four. You got Bjelica there, Ilyasova. Like, Ilyasova in 35 would be a good yield too, I think. And then we could make a play in the draft. Either, Scrub would probably be there at 35, and if we really love Scrub, we could probably get Scrub, and then we'd have our 46th pick to use as well. Or we could trade both those picks up and maybe take a guy like a Josh Green if he falls or something like that. So I'm optimistic that something might happen tomorrow. I'm not saying it will, but there's a good chance that it's not just going to be, we're just sitting back and, we're going to use the 46th pick. And that's it.
There's also the possibility of just buying I mean, I don't know if Jody's going to be like Paul, but there's got to be some owners that are struggling more than other owners, and might just look to dump second round picks for $2 or $3 million in this stream
Yeah.
versus last year where early second round picks were going for like future first round picks and stuff like that. It was a lot more expensive. But then again, like that's what intrigues me about that Boston trade is like that was a much better draft. There were some good players like still on the board in that range. Like you had Brandon Clark lasting until 21, who would have been perfect on the Celtics. We got Little at 25. Darius Baisley went in that range too. Like there was a lot of intriguing players in that range of the draft. So the fact that they did that last year, the only thing that gives me hesitancy is I think they were using it to clear enough cap space to possibly get Kemba. So it might not be a situation where they need to clear space this year, but there has to be a team that's looking to trade a contract or get rid of it. And Sacramento, I think, is the perfect example of that right now.
Yeah, and I mean Sacramento has 2 second round picks on top of their first round picks, so that would be a team that might look to shed a pick. That kind of makes it weird if you're like offering our 46th pick and future seconds for Bielitsa, because they probably wouldn't want an additional second round pick in this year's draft. That's kind of the issue there. But like, do you expect, okay, which do you think is more likely? We make a trade involving getting another pick from another team somehow, or we just sit back and use 46? Which do you think is more likely tomorrow?
I'd say the most likely is just sitting at 46, in my opinion.
I think it's 50-50. I think it's 50-50.
Yeah. I don't.
Because
Well,
I mean,
we'll
we
get into
could
the specifics.
could toss cash for a second round pick, and that would count as like get another second round
Yeah.
pick from a team. You know what I mean? And
Right.
given how many trades happened last year, I feel like we'll make at least one trade tomorrow. You want to
I feel
bet on
like
that? We could bet on it.
I don't know. Well, take the Kings that you said at 35, right? So, like if we're sitting there at 46 and we say, "Hey, we'll give you $3 million to trade 46 for 35," like I could definitely see something like that. And then they save some money and or get some money and we move up in the draft. Like I could definitely see that.
Another early-ish second round pick to watch and a potential cap dump with a salary we could take on would be 37 with Washington and Ish Smith. If they don't want him on their roster and they want to clear up $6 million, I think probably to stand with the tax. They have a pretty high payroll, even though they're trash. They're paying John Wall like $40 million, and they're paying Bradley Beal. So and they probably want to stand under the tax. It might be tough for them. They might want to get rid of Ish Smith and his $6 million contract, and maybe willing to shed 37, and maybe even a future second to do so. And we could kind of replenish, a future second. We get 37, which puts us in a better range to draft scrub if that's who we want, and we have 37. 46, potentially move up. That could be something that's possible as well. Ish Smith probably wouldn't play for us, but he could be like a vet point guard in case, Gary Trent Jr. gets hurt or CJ McCollum's struggling or gets hurt. You know what I mean? Like it would be nice to have like a vet backup point guard. So from a player standpoint, he'd work. He'd be a $6 million expiring that we could use to match salary at the trade deadline, or we could even maybe flip an Ish Smith for something else. Maybe we'd flip Ish Smith in that future second for Ilyasova, considering the logjam the Kings have. You know what I mean? So like something like that would be reasonable as well. So yeah, I mean like I feel like Olshey will have options. I will be disappointed if he doesn't use the trade player exception tomorrow, because I feel like he will have options on the table to do so. Now he might not, so I'm not gonna be like upset to the point where like, oh, he didn't do something and he could have, because maybe there are options on the table. But I think there probably are. So I will be a little disappointed, but I probably won't bash him if he just stays at 46, if that makes sense. Like I probably won't criticize him because I don't know for sure if there's options on the table. I'll just be disappointed instead of angry, because I do think there will be.
The only thing I'll say to that is it doesn't go away this week. So the trade, unlike like the mid-level exception and all that kind of stuff, we have to use this weekend basically.
Yeah, I just think like
the trade exception we have for several months into the season still to make some sort of trade happen.
I just think,
and as we'll get into in a moment, the Hood situation kind of clouds the money situation a little more than it was a day ago.
Yeah, I was thinking like if a team's looking to dump like an Ilyasova, get off of Bielitsa or an Ish Smith or something like that, they'll probably look to do it on draft night. So that's why I'm
Yeah.
hoping we do something tomorrow.
Mm.
So anyway, yeah, we're not going to be able to get Bol though. He's a big part of Denver's future. Um, but yeah, I don't even. We'll see. We'll see what happens tomorrow. I mean, we'll stream all 60 picks of the draft. We'll talk about trades. It'll be fun. Hopefully, the
Well,
Blazers make a splash.
because what happened last year is we were like excited about the 25th pick. We were super jacked to get Little, and
Mm-hmm.
then we like spent the whole draft like, are we going to trade back in? Are we going to do something? Are we going to do something? And like we didn't do anything else the rest of the night, which is still a good draft to get Little, but like it was kind of like just what are we going to do? What are we going to do? But this time we actually have a pick late in the draft, and
Yeah,
it's
so
been
we'll
a
be
while since
waiting
we
in
yeah.
anticipation, and it'll be the opposite.
Because it's like, we traded for Jake Layman or whatever, and it's like, oh, Portland's traded a future second in cash for this pick or whatever, and it's like, oh, okay. And then, but like, there's not the intrigue of, okay, we're 10 picks till our pick, who's still on the board,
Yeah.
like what's happening? So that'll be kind of interesting. It
Hmm.
still sucks that we don't have 16, but I'll take it since we got Rocco.
Yeah, and here's the thing: like if the Blazers found a way to get back in the first round, that'd make that Covington trade look better because we traded 2 firsts for him. But like, if O'Shea might have traded 16, thinking like, oh, I should be able to. Like maybe he has something that is like on the table where he's like, okay, I'm gonna be able to recoup like a late first and maybe take on Cantor or something like that. You know what I mean? And it's like, here's the thing: the difference between the prospects at like 16 and the prospects at 26, I don't think is as big as other people do. Like you could have guys like a Sadiq Bey available at 16, but I think he'll go before then. I feel like the guys available at 16 won't be that much better than the guys available late in the first. So like if we could recoup, if we could use our TPE to get a Cantor and a 26 from Boston, like it almost cancels out the fact that we traded 16.
Hmm.
And then it almost becomes like we only traded 1 first-round pick for Robert Covington. And that makes that trade look better. So that's the thing, is I'm hopeful we do something tomorrow. It would set up this offseason well. I wish I wish their 35th pick was like the 25th pick, because I feel like they might be willing to move off that just to move Ilyasova. They're going to want to move one of their power forwards. And the thing that's crazy about Sacramento, they have 4 big men that fit into our traded player exception. From the guys I want the most to the least, the guy I want most is Bielitsa.
Yeah, that's it for sure.
The next guy, like I'm kind of
You'll say Holmes second, I bet.
Holmes is better than Ilyasova, but Ilyasova's probably a better fit.
I like Ilysso's contract better too because it's a little bigger, so we could trade it
Yeah.
for a little better player.
But like either of those guys would be good gets, Ilyasova or Holmes. You could probably get back like their 35th pick with Ilyasova, while you might have to give up a second to get Holmes, just because Holmes produced last season. But yeah, and then they got Jabari Parker fourth. I don't really want Jabari Parker. He can't really shoot, can't really defend, so he doesn't fit this team. But that's 4. That's kind of crazy. That's 4 bigs that fit into our traded player exception that make between 5 and 7 million in that range, which is kind of crazy. So it'll be like if there's any rumors about Sacramento leading up to the draft tomorrow or during the draft, I'm going to be paying heavy attention to them just because of how, we need a backup big with the traded player exception, I think. And they got 4 of them, so it'll be interesting. And that's a team we trade with a lot. I know they've kind of reshuffled their front office, but that's a team we've traded with multiple times in the past. We traded with them to draft Zach Collins. We traded with them to draft Gary Trent Jr. We traded with them last year to get Trevor Ariza and Wenyen Gabriel, sending them Kent Bazemore. So we have a history with trading with them too. So
New front office though.
yeah, new front office, which maybe none of that carries over, but I don't know. I don't know how they reshuffled their front office. Maybe the assistant GM is now the GM. I don't pay attention to
No,
Sacramento.
they signed an outside guy, I think.
Yeah, they might have. I don't really pay attention to what they do GM wise.
No, they didn't.
But interesting. When will the Bucks Kings trade be official? Like Sunday. Sunday is when they can start signing contracts, I think. Because
Yeah.
Bogdanovich has to sign, and then, yeah. I'm not even going to get into why that's weird that they already agreed to a sign and trade before they were supposed to be able to even talk to free agents. Sign and trades confuse me. Like, how that even work? I don't even really want to get into that, but, like, how?
So I decided to try again and message Bobby Marks again today. So this is the message I sent to him. I said, so I know every team breaks the rules and tampers behind the scenes, but why are the Bucks allowed to work out a sign and trade 4 days before free agency? Isn't the point of having a free agency set time so that all teams have an equal shot at free agents, or are they just scrapping those rules with the condensed offseason, like the aggregate 60-day rule? And he said, it is illegal and you are correct. That they're just scrapping the season. So
they're just scrapping the rules.
They're basically not enforcing any of the rules right now, which I'm surprised that they're not announcing like free agency signings that like if we're gonna re-sign Hood, which we'll get to in a minute, like why we wouldn't just announce that right away? Because if they announced a trade with a free agent, why can't we announce signings, right?
Yeah, that confused the hell out of me. So yeah, I don't know. NBA needs to just consistently enforce their rules. Like that should be something they should be enforcing.
I think they just thought like I think the teams in the meeting said like, look, we have a super condensed offseason. Can you please just give us a little bit of leeway to like contact agents and players beforehand? Because like we're going to be scrambling to get this stuff done. Yeah. I'm surprised they allowed someone to announce that sign and trade beforehand. I mean, that's probably not the NBA's decision to do so, but yeah, it's I'd be surprised if we heard many rumblings about free agency signings other than teams are interested in so and so. Like we're allegedly interested in Paul Millsap, but yeah, it's just kind of funny that he answered it in that way.
We'll talk free agency at the end of this stream. We got to talk Rodney Hood though because he opted out.
Yeah.
Let me just say this right now. I expect him back in a Blazer uniform. Here's what I think happened. Rodney Hood could have made more money in free agency last offseason. Mm-hmm. We only had $5.7 million to offer because we only had our taxpayer mid-level exception. And we had to use our mid-level exception of Rodney Hood because we didn't have any sort of bird rights on him. So there was rumors that he got contract offers of like $8 million, $9 million, but turned it down to accept a contract offer worth $5.7 million with Portland. 1 year, actually it was a 2-year contract. The second year was a player option, which he just opted out of. I think at the time when we agreed to that deal, we told him, like, we'll give you the second year player option in case, you want to accept it. But if you opt out, we will sign you to a higher amount because this offseason they have his early bird rights and can sign him for up to $10 million starting salary without using mid-level exception or any sort of free agency exception because now we have his early bird rights, which means we can sign him for up to 175% of his previous salary without using like a free agency exception. We can go over the cap to do so. So I think what happened was we said we will we'll take care of you next offseason when we can resign you to a higher amount, and we will like compensate you for accepting a lower amount this offseason. There was an interview with Rodney Hood and Jason Quick, like back in April or something like that, where Rodney Hood was like, I'll be back in a Trailblazer uniform next year. He basically said, I'll be back in a Blazer uniform next year, but I don't know if I'm going to pick up my player option. Which, the only way that makes sense to me is if the Blazers said, we'll compensate you and pay you more than your player option. Like, we'll give you $8 million next year to compensate for the money you gave up in this year's offseason to stay with us, to fit under our taxpayer mid-level exception. And I think that's the only way Rodney Hood would opt out in this situation, coming off a torn Achilles in a pretty tampered market. Like, it's the market, there's not a lot of money to be thrown around in this market. And he's coming off an Achilles injury. I don't think he'd get offered more than his player option from another team, right? So I was surprised to see him opt out, but I think the only reason he opted out was because he knows that Portland is going to take care of him, considering he gave up money in last year's free agency, and they're gonna like re-sign him for like $8 million a year or something within like the 8 to 9 million range. Who knows how long that contract is, but that's what I'm expecting.
Yeah. So, see, I was under the assumption once he tore his Achilles, it kind of changed the plan, and then that was the whole reason for having the player option, right? So he could pick that up, play for $6 million, show that he's back, and then next season we'd have his full bird, right? So if he was back to levels what he was showing earlier in this season, we could offer him, like 4 years, 48 million or something like similar to the Nurt contract maybe. But so I was really surprised that he opted out today. But yeah, you're right. If they have a deal or had a deal in place, I'm a little bummed at what that does to our ability to stay under the tax line and use all the avenues we have to add players. So I'm hoping it's. I don't see any way he opted out of the $6 million to sign like a 3-year, $15 million contract or even like $6 million a year, same price just for longer. So it's probably going to be in the $7 to $10 million range per season. So we're talking at minimum 3 years, 21 million, and probably maximum like 3 years, 30 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did rough math. I know you did like the math on paper. When I called Eric on Skype, he was saying I'm doing math, and like I heard the pencil working. But we could sign him for like $8 million starting salary and still have enough room under the tax to use our mid-level exception and traded player exception in the fullest, right? If we use our traded player exception on a guy like Canner, that frees up like an extra $1.5 million, But we were saying like, okay, we barely have enough room using. We were saying. Here's a scenario. Mario opted in, right? We kind of expected that, and we took that into account. And we were saying, okay, if Hood opts into a $6 million contract, we draft somebody with 16 for $2.6 million. We use our full traded player exception for $7 million and our mid-level exception for $9.3 million, and then we sign like a minimum guy, maybe it's Gabriel or the 46th pick. We'd be like $500,000 under the tax line, which I think this team wants to stay under the tax. But that changed with the Ariza for Covington trade because you downgraded $12.8 million in salary to $12.1 million. Covington makes a little bit less than Ariza. And then you also got rid of the $2.6 million that we'd have to pay our first round pick. Mm-hmm. The thing is, we have to, it's not like we saved $2.6 million because we have to fill that roster spot with somebody, but if that's like with the 46th pick, a minimum pick, a minimum contract guy, we save like $1 to $1.5 million with that on top of the $700,000 that we saved between Ariza and Covington. So that's $2.2 million that we saved with that trade. If you attach that to like Rodney Hood's salary, because we assumed he was going to opt in to only make $6 million, then we could sign him for $8 million and still like have enough room under the tax to use our mid-level exception and use our trade player exception on the fullest. Does that check out, Eric?
It's pretty close, but yeah, I'll crunch the whole. Wait, Trevin says, say it again.
How much? What do you mean?
I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, I don't know what he's talking about either. Second round picks do like Ben, we'd use our second round pick on a player and probably sign them, and their contract would count on our books and go towards the tax.
2.2 million. Oh, timeout for driving.
You really just stopped us for that, you bum. I can't believe I got to put my mods in timeout. Westbrook, you got to pick up his slack. But so yeah, I mean, like we should be able to resign him for like $8 million starting salary, and maybe it's like a summer contract where it's a 2-year contract, player option second year at $8 million, and then he'd make like $8.5 million next year.
Yeah. So yeah, it's gonna depend on what his starting salary is. Maybe you can squeeze it closer to 7, but give him the 8% bumps, and then he's fine.
Can you give 8% bumps with early bird rights?
Up to 8%, I think. Yeah.
I thought that was only with bird rights, but I'm not entirely sure.
No, I think I read today that it was 8% still.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. So first of all, if we're wrong and they don't have an agreement on a bigger contract like in place when he opted out, I'm going to be shocked. Like, I don't see how Rodney Hood is not a part of the future, other
I'll be
than
bummed. Yeah.
his Achilles would be like the only way you could justify that is if you don't think he's ever going to be the same player again, which I'd have a tough time if he doesn't get a lot of offers in free agency or fails the physical and doesn't get a contract. I would have a tough time, um, like not taking care of him. I mean, I know that's not the right business decision if he's really shot or whatever, but I'm going to be stunned if we did not have, or if he did not opt out already having a contract in place, that he knew for sure when he opted out. This is my offer from the Blazers. I will accept it on Friday. Blah 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 blah. But if he leaves, it kind of, I mean, the math makes it a lot easier, right?
Yeah, but
Because we don't have to carry that. But then we're talking about
we have 3 rotation
basically,
spots to fill instead of 2.
yep, and we get the biannual exception and be able to use that,
Yeah.
but that's only like 3.6 some million
Mm-hmm.
dollars. So it'll be a lot harder to replace his production and to fill all those roster spots. We'd have
Yeah.
to basically hit on our trade exception, biannual exception, and mid-level exception, and fill the exact roster spots we need in those 3,
Yeah.
which would be very hard to pull off. So the razor thin line for error is getting smaller and smaller if he doesn't come back.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Like, our 3 tools to add players from the outside are the trade player exception, mid-level exception, biannual exception, right? Resigning Rodney Hood, we can resign him for up to $10 million without utilizing any of those. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have to use any of those to keep Rodney Hood, even though he opted out. So that's the thing. That's why it'd be a bummer if we didn't keep him, is because, like, he's a guy that we can use to fill a rotation spot without using one of those 3 assets, right? So if we keep him, then we have 2 rotation spots left to fill with those 3 assets. But if we lose him, like, we have 3 rotation spots to fill with those 3 assets, and it makes it a lot harder. If he leaves, I think you look at biannual exception. I mean, like, if he leaves, it makes it more likely Carmelo comes back for, like, the biannual, I feel like. For outside coming in, Maurice Harkless, maybe you could get him with the biannual, and he would fill a roster spot and, like, be a player that that knows his team, that is kind of a fit in terms of his skill set. And then, you'd have to use that traded player exception, though. That's the problem, is, like, I want Rodney Hood to stay. I hope they have something in place so, like, okay, if they don't use the traded player exception, they're still fine. They can use the mid-level exception, biannual exception, fill the rest of the roster. But you were forced to use the traded player exception, or you're forced to, like, put Nas in the rotation if he leaves.
Yeah. Or instead of using the mid-level exception on Paul Millsap, you're going to have to go after like a Justin Holiday or someone that can just cover the wing rotation. I mean, yes, people are suggesting Evan Turner. There are going to be wings you could sign, maybe like an Allen Crabbe for the minimum, but that's not going to help our team win a championship or contend next year. So yeah, Hood opting out or not being this like. Not being able to play very much next year definitely hurts our chances, I think. We definitely need Rodney.
Yeah.
So I hope we sign him, but because there aren't a lot of wing options in this free agency. So the Justin Holidays and Mo Harklesses are going to be coveted by a lot of like maybe a Jay Crowder, but like I feel like Rocco is more of a 3-4, so I don't think you really need another 3-4. You need more of like a typical wing. I don't know.
A typical wing offensively. Like, if you paired Gallinari with Covington, I think that'd be a great fit on both ends of the court. And I keep reading stuff from, like, when he played with the Clippers and when he played with the Thunder about, like, writers and fans saying, like, oh, yeah, Gallo's actually an above-average defender, which I never thought of him as that. I always thought of him as a below-average defender, but apparently I keep reading stuff about how smart of a defender he is, how vocal he is, and how he can, like, defend fours at an above-average level. So now I'm, like, kind of more intrigued about Gallo. Obviously, like, I feel like just the stuff I read I was reading stuff about people that would know more about his defense than I would, because I haven't watched Gallo like they have. So like a guy like Gallo, we'll get into free agency at the end of this. A guy like Gallo would be interesting, but I want to talk about Nasir, because people are like, oh, well, you just fill his rotation spot with Nasir. And I love Nasir as a prospect, but going into next season, I want to have a 9-man rotation filled with players that have produced before and that we know we can count on, right? Right now we have 7: Dame, CJ, Covington, Collins, Nurkic, Trent, Hood if he stays, right? Like, that's what the thought process was. Hood would stay. We have 7. If Hood leaves, that makes it dodgy, but if Hood stays, that's 7 players we know can produce and have produced before. And then, we the 3 assets we have, biannual exception, mid-level exception, trade player exception, we get 2 veterans that we know will step in and produce. Maybe it's a Paul Millsap, and then we use the traded player exception on like a Ilyasova or a Bielitsa or something like that. That would give us a 9-man rotation, a full rotation of guys that we know can produce and have produced, right? Because I'm tired of taking gambles on guys like that we know are trash, like a Tolliver. Like we knew he wasn't going to be like useful going into last year. And I'm tired of taking chances on like, oh, well, if we bring in Nick Stauskas into our system when he's played in bad systems, he'll show why he was the 8th overall pick and he'll be good. And then he's garbage. Oh, well, if Hazonia, he's been stuck in Orlando and New York, if we bring him in, he'll be great because he was the 5th overall pick, and then he's garbage. I don't want to have to like bank on that as like our 9th, 8th, 9th, 10th guys, right? This little is better. Little is better than Tolliver in Hazonia, so I wouldn't be like as upset. But there is a chance that like Little is not ready to contribute to a near contention level team next year. There is a legitimate chance of that, and I'd rather just develop him another year and have 9 guys that we know we can bank on.
And here's the thing: even if like last year, Olshey was pretty certain that Simons would be ready to have that bigger role, right? And that didn't really work out super well. So even if you have total confidence in Little, I do. I think Little's going to be a really good starting level player in the NBA. I think he's going to develop, but you don't plan on him doing that this year. So you make the plans, get a 9-deep rotation that doesn't include Little. And then if Little plays so well, especially with Hood coming back from an injury, Collins coming back from an injury, they might not be ready to go right away. If he plays so well at the beginning, then you can trade Collins, you can trade Hood, you can trade these contracts, match them together, and bring in a player that to shore up a different part of your rotation or consolidate. Because then if you have a 9-man rotation and then Little's worthy of playing time, you could trade 2 players for 1, improve your 9-man rotation, and then slide Little into the rotation. Yeah. So that's the kind of things that winning teams do to keep building their team better and better. You don't want to just go in saying, oh, Simons hopefully will be the backup point guard and Little will hopefully step up and be the backup shooting guard or backup power forward, and hopefully that our rotation's good enough or whatever. Like, make it good enough, and then if those guys are so good, like Portland made the wrong decision with Jermaine O'Neal back in the day, but that was the same thing that happened back then. So we were so good, but you kept hearing Jermaine O'Neal's the most dominant player on this team. He's the best player in practice by far. Like, he is the best player on this team. He needs more playing time. So we were stupid and traded him instead of trading like the person in front of him. But that's what we could do. Either he would have trade value Little himself, or we could trade if we pick up a Bielitsa, that guy's on an expiring contract and he's a good player. We could trade him and give Little a bigger role. So it opens up a lot more opportunities.
And here's the thing. If we get absolutely screwed by injuries again, we actually have guys that can step up and produce. Whereas instead of, last year it's like, oh, well, Tolliver, you're going to have to play some center because Whiteside's out tonight. And, it was like, hopefully Pau Gasol is healthy enough at age 39 after an injury to produce. There were so many question marks going into last season. And I should have, been more cautious about the expectations going into last season because there were so many question marks with, Pau Gasol. Is he going to be able to play? Is he going to be healthy? We need him to be our backup center. If not, then who in the world is our backup center? I think we had Scal, but then Scal gets hurt. It's like, okay, we're screwed. We have Tolliver as our backup center, and then Swatigan as our backup center when we trade for him. Simon's big question mark. It's only a big question mark. That's why this offseason I'm like, I don't want question marks, And then that's the thing is, if Gary Trent if any of our players, if we keep Hood and any of our players 2 through 4 gets hurt, we can slot Nasir in. If a player at the 4 gets hurt, who knows who we have at the 4, but if a player at even the 5, let me try and explain this. If we have a lineup that has like just a hypothetical lineup, say we have Dame, CJ, Covington, Millsap, Nurkic is our starting 5, and then we have off the bench CJ running the backup point, Trent at the 2, Hood at the 3, Collins at the 4, and then like a center, maybe it's Canner. Maybe we use the traded player exception on Canner, right? If Canner or Nurkic gets hurt, let's say Canner gets hurt. Let's say Nurkic gets hurt. If Nurkic gets hurt, you have Collins move to the 5 and he and Canner play the 5 minutes. The thing is, moving Collins from the 4 to the 5 creates a void at the 4, but who steps in? Nasir Little, right? If a 3 gets hurt, say Covington gets hurt, Hood steps up and maybe is the starting 3, and Nasir's the backup 3, or Nasir's the starting 3, and Hood's the backup 3. If CJ gets hurt, you start Trent, you play Hood at the 2 instead of the 3. That opens up minutes to the backup 3 for Little, right? Like, if Dame gets hurt, CJ probably becomes like the starting point guard with that lineup, and you put Trent as the starting 2. That opens up a hole at the backup 2. You slide Hood down to the backup 2. That opens up a hole at the backup 3. Little plays. So that's the thing.
Simons gets a chance.
Yeah, or Simons gets a chance. But like that's the thing is like if we'll have enough positional versatility, we should have enough positional versatility that if one injury happens, we can slot Nasir into the rotation and like just move players to like different positions that they 100% can totally play. If that makes sense. So that's the thing, is like that's a good luxury to have. And so like, oh, Little's in the rotation. If one guy gets hurt, oh well, we have to slide in Simons, and we might be playing players at weird positions. You know what I mean? Because then we'd, have to. I don't know. Like the position breakdown with Little being able to play in the 3 and the 4 makes sense because you have Collins that can play the 4 or the 5. You have Hood, hopefully, that can play the 2 or the 3. You have CJ that can play the 1 or the 2. Like. So that's the thing. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Hopefully that explanation makes sense. Do you agree with that, Eric? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like,
I love, because what I feel like with Simons, I'm not ready to give up on Simons. I'm not ready to give up on Collins. I'm not ready to give up on Little. I'm not ready to give up on Winion. Hopefully we bring him back as well. Like that's great. Like great. Like third unit basically to have. And I know Zach's not included with the third unit, whatever. But if you have a guy step up like Trent stepped up this year, because Trent didn't have the pressure. I mean, we had the injuries and stuff, so we had to play. But it wasn't like what we did to Simons this year and basically hyped him up and he had to produce. And that's a lot of pressure for a guy who's never had to really produce other than in high school. He didn't even get to lead a college team or whatever. And the moments were too big for him in some spots this year. And that's not how you build a contending roster. Like you don't want to put people in a position that they're feeling overwhelmed with. So like you let Simons develop on his own pace. And if he's ready for that opportunity, then you give him minutes. You maybe don't even need to make CJ play the backup point guard anymore. Maybe at some point Simons is so good that he could take over for that role. Same with Little. Like maybe he's just such a good defender and he's improved his 3-point shot that he earns minutes over a Rodney Hood. Maybe that makes Rodney Hood expendable or whatever. But like you let those guys develop organically instead of forcing them into minutes that they're not necessarily ready for. And that doesn't mean you're giving up on them or doing anything like that. And I know it's kind of tricky with Stotts because I feel like Olshey's had to make moves in the past, like not bring back an Ed Davis, so he's forced to play like a Collins, or not bring back Amino this past summer, so he has to start a certain player. But for the most part, I feel like if Stotts had a loaded roster, it would be hard for him to play like Hazonia over Rodney Hood or like Rocco or whatever. Like that's not going to happen. And if it did, I mean, Stotts would get exposed really fast. So like it might be a good thing. But I just feel like it's a good problem to have a really deep roster,
Mm-hmm.
and we haven't really had that problem ever in the Dame era. So like I want to have that problem at some point to where we have trade assets, and we're not when we make a trade, it's not like, oh crap, we traded Ariza, but we got Rocco, but it didn't really like. I mean, it made our lineup better, but we're
Mm-hmm.
not like filling holes or whatever.
Here's the thing, though. The one possible good thing about like if Hood walked and we slot in Nasir Little to the lineup, we could potentially get a better like top 8 rotation. And here's how we do it, right? We'd sign whoever with the mid-level exception. Let's say that's Paul Millsap. If we use the traded player exception to trade for an Ilyasova for like $7 million, then we could trade him for somebody making up to 12, because since we're under the tax, we could bring back up to 5 million in return, because Ilyasov is making like over like 6.8, I think is the number. We could potentially like be in the market for like a sign and trade of Ilyasova then at that point, right? So say we use the mid-level exception on like a Millsap, then in free agency we could maybe go to a Gallo and offer him 12 million a year and potentially sign and trade an Ilyasova for him and maybe like the future seconds or whatever, right? We would be able to do that and stay under the tax because of the money that we'd save going from like what we'd have to offer Hood, like 8 million, to like Nasir Little, who's like 3 million. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like we could potentially stay under the tax in that situation, and we could potentially get like two. We could potentially get two of like Millsap, Gallinari, and Ibaka or something like that. If we like were, which isn't likely, but like it would open up the pathway to do that and stay under the tax.
And if you combined Ilyasova with like a Hazonia, then you're in the range of like a Tony Snell, Kelly Olynyk. It opens up some avenues for players making that $12 to $13 million range that we don't really have a chance to get. If we didn't trade for Rocco, that would be another possibility where we could offer two. Because the Rockets didn't care about getting Ariza back. They're blowing up the team. Like they didn't want Ariza. They wanted like an expiring contract and the 2 first-round picks or whatever. So like teams are just going to care about what kind of pick asset we offer them in most situations versus what the players going back to them is in those kind of trades.
Yep. So I mean that's like the only like positive I could see about like, okay, Hood leaves and we slot in Nasir, and then it would also help Nasir's development. But the only way I want that to happen is if we like make a sign and trade and use our mid-level exception by like which is very unlikely because we'd have to use the trade player exception to get a player like an Ilyasova who makes $7 million to be able to then use in the sign and trade forever we were sign and trading for. So like it'd be like a bunch of dominoes. But here's since I just brought up those 3 names, I will be disappointed if we don't get one of Paul Millsap, Danilo Gallinari, or Serge Ibaka in free agency. Those are the 3 targets I am locked in on. I don't know if there's anybody you want to add to that list, but those are 3 targets I'm locked in on.
To me, the only realistic one is Ibaka. I mean, not Ibaka, Millsap. I would love any of the 3. But yeah, I have a hard time thinking Ibaka's going to. I mean, you brought up a good scenario where we could offer him a little more than mid-level exception. That might bring us into play versus some other teams. Not sure if Toronto would even listen to our offers or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it kind of depends. If we used our trade exception on a power forward, like most of the names we've mentioned, then I wouldn't mind getting a Baines or a Favors type. So I would add them to the list if we don't get one of those 3. But those are definitely the 3 guys I'd try. Someone mentions Jeremy Grant, AM Productions. Yep. I mean, this is not going to happen. He's going to get like 16 million from the Nuggets, so there's no way to compete with that. And even if we did the scenario that Tori was talking about, it's hard for us to get up to the $16 million range to get him. And they're not going to want Ilyasova and Hazonia and a bunch of like random players to get up to the salary. Like what would be in it for Denver doing that trade? So yeah, I think Jeremy Grant's completely out of the realm of possibility. Ibaka, I don't know how close he is with Kevin Durant still, but there's rumors he's gonna go back to Brooklyn or go to Brooklyn to reunite with him. Don't know if that's going to happen or not, but yeah, I think it's going to be tough to get Ibaka. Gallo is interesting simply because he's really good friends with Nurk, so I feel like we have kind of a recruiting edge there.
Yeah.
But I know Miami basically traded for him at the trade deadline, but they couldn't work out the long-term contract, and that was for a much higher amount than he's going to get in free agency this year.
I mean, you're just trying to crap on my dreams.
I'm not trying.
No,
to
I'm just kidding because I mean, that's all true and that's all facts that people need to know.
Part of it is like we talk about this before is like not setting the fan base's expectations too high because that's like if we get one of those three guys, it's hard to like name a better free agency signing than we've had in the history of the Blazers, right? Mm-hmm. So like most of our big moves have been through trades or drafting someone and developing them. So like if we sign like a Gallinari or Ibaka, that's like right up there with some of the best signings in the history of the Blazers. So it's hard to say like, oh, I'm going to be mad if I don't get one of the best signings ever in the history of the team. So
I mean, like Millsap's very realistic, I think.
Yeah.
So one of those three is what I'm hoping for. I feel like there's a 50-50 chance at least that we'll get one of those three. But it's most likely going to be Millsap. Millsap makes a ton of sense for his perspective and ours. And Millsap fits kind of what we need. I just read something. I want to end the stream with this. Anthony Edwards might have to slip on my big board.
Are you talking about the rap thing?
Let me read this off. Have you read this already, Eric?
If it's the rap thing, yeah.
Let me read this off for chat. So Anthony Edwards is quoted as saying, "To be honest, I can't watch basketball." And this piece kind of narrates it. He says, Edwards retells the story about the first time he dunked and how it signaled to him that he was talented and could accomplish something he might not have been able to in football, which was his first love. So that's the direction he went. Simple as that, hanging up his cleats. That's all I needed to see, Edwards says. So when after that did he get into basketball? Edwards goes on to say, I'm still not really into it. I love basketball, yeah, it's what I do. And the narrator says, Edwards is not entirely convincing. He says if he were drafted by the NFL tomorrow, he'd let basketball go. Because you can do anything on the field, Edwards explains. You can spike the ball. You can dance. You can do all type of disrespectful stuff. In the NBA, he says, you can't do any of that. You'll get fined. Bro.
What?
Did you hear that? Did you read that part?
I did not read that part. I just read the story that's he said that he was he compared himself to Lil Baby or something, and
that was the last part of it. He goes on to say that he's an aspiring rapper. He's already recorded a few tracks with his older brother. The narrator asked, so like Damian Lillard? And Edwards went on to say, but I can really rap. Dame talking about, I don't know what he's talking about. I'm rapping like Lil Baby. He says he won't release any songs until he's established in the NBA.
Dude, okay.
All of that is cringe as hell.
Here's the deal. Dame, whether you like his rapping or not, raps about like meaningful stuff and like,
for the most part,
social justice and there's a lot of messages behind his music. Like, it's not just like rapping about like girls and cars and stuff, like, and getting high or whatever. But like, why? So he's basically saying he's not smart enough to understand what Dame's rapping about. That's so dumb.
Yeah. But he's saying I can really rap because I'm rapping like Lil Baby. Bro, we don't need another syrupy mumble rapper, bro. That's dime a dozen, man. You gotta have soul, you gotta have personality. Like, this rapping like Lil Baby is the basic route for a lot of SoundCloud rappers these days, right? Like, that whole part is cringe. But the other part that's cringe is he would rather play in the NFL instead of the NBA because you can do all types of disrespectful stuff in the NFL. Why do I feel like
What's that even mean? What
is this?
Why would you care about spiking a football versus like dunking a basketball? Like, that's so dumb. Like, take it out on the rim or something. Like, I don't know.
Bro, I don't know if I can have him in the top 5 on my big board tomorrow.
Yeah, it's tough.
I don't know how you can touch this guy with a... Bro, if this is real... What? This is the worst pre-draft quote I've ever heard in any sport at any time. He'd rather play football so he can be disrespectful. He doesn't really... He says he can't watch basketball. He doesn't care about... Like, he's basically saying, I don't care about basketball. I wish I was an NFL player so I could dance and spike the ball and be disrespectful. Like, what the... Like, how do you... Oh, God. Character matters. Like,
Yeah. This is probably as bad as... I mean, he won't fall as much as this person, but the... Laramie Tunsil, when the video surfaced, like, right before the draft with him... smoking a bong out of the gas mask. That's like on that level of like, really, I'm gonna draft this guy to be my franchise cornerstone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have to reevaluate him, bro, because Kyra Lewis might be up to 3 on my big board now. He's rising, bro. Yeah, so is Destrom in here? We gotta sign off. I gotta call this man out. He's not in here. So you, a lot of this community knows Destrom. If you don't know Destrom, then this night might not really pertain to you. But bro, Destrom just tweeted out, I will be announcing all 60 NBA draft picks tomorrow, so make sure to turn on those post notifications.
What?
Zane said he's going to tweet all 60 NBA draft picks tomorrow, so to turn on those notifications.
Okay.
I don't. Zane,
right.
Is he not in here? Bro, come on, man.
We're
gonna be streaming the draft, man. You should just be chilling with us, man.
3:30 is when we're gonna go on live. Draft starts a little after 4. Westbrook says he's got to go turn on his notifications now.
Oh my goodness, man! if y'all don't know who we're talking about, Zane used to like watch us all the time and be chill. I don't know. It's just kind of like, instead of watching our stream, he's gonna be like parroting Wojnarowski. I don't get it, man.
He did that during the I don't remember if it was the Blazers or someone else's playoff series. He was just like, I'm gonna like act like I'm a reporter for this series, and like it lasted one like half of a game, and he was like tweeting out like something a beat reporter would say, like, Blazers up 14 points with 3 minutes left in the third quarter and stuff, and then,
that's not how you
like stopped all of a sudden, and like he didn't do it anymore.
That's not how you go about becoming a reporter.
Yeah.
If somebody is serious about becoming a reporter,
there's Destrom.
If somebody's serious about becoming a reporter, like, I would be glad to give them advice. I want to see people become a reporter. I know that's like one of Reese's goals, and let me just say this: Reese writes really well, and I'm excited to like have him writing for our website, which should hopefully be launching soon. I've actually been texting my site builder during this whole entire thing.
Actually, I don't have the quote in front of me. Reese, are you still in here? I was told today by a Twitter troll that Reese might want to give up on his aspiring dreams.
Why? Reese's.
We got to talk about this for just a minute, even though I'm going to get triggered. But Reese and I were going trolls through the Aaron Gordon stuff today, and Yeah, people are being so stupid.
Oh yeah, I gotta
And
stand up for
someone was
my boy
like,
Reese.
"Oh, that's your take? You think Aaron Gordon sucks, and you want to be an aspiring writer? Good luck with that, or something."
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, like
oh
bro,
yeah, because
Reese.
he thinks
If
Robert Covington was better than Aaron Gordon. That was that guy's response, that he'll never be a writer because he thinks that, or
let me
something.
just
Like,
say
well,
this, Reese, if that's something you want to do and you're truly dedicated to it, like I have confidence in you, like long term, bro. Destrom, if you want to become an NBA reporter, you don't go about it by like going on a new Twitter account and just tweeting out picks after Wojnarowski. You do it by like becoming a writer. So if that's something you want to do, Destrom, like that's the route you go. You know what I mean? So yeah, like tweeting out, like copying Woj's tweets is not going to help you whatsoever. It kind of, I don't know. I don't want pick spoilers either. You know what I mean? So like that's the thing about the stream tomorrow is I don't want pick spoilers. So like I'd kind of want to be on Twitter, but I don't know, it's going to be hard. So, like, anybody that's, like, spoiling picks, I'll probably have to mute tomorrow, and I'll probably have to have somebody send me, like, Woj's tweets that aren't picks, right? So, like, if you want to help me tomorrow and you want to be the person that, like, sends me any tweets from Woj about trades, do so, because I won't be able to, like, I want to react to picks live on stream, no spoilers. Our moderators are going to have to remove any posts that are spoilers and potentially put people in timeout if they're spoiling picks. Because I want to react to it live with everybody. So in terms of like being on Twitter, it's like I don't even know if I should be on Twitter at all. But like I'm gonna have to mute people if they're spoiling picks. That's the whole thing, Destrom. Like, and we're gonna be on a little bit of a delay compared to like ESPN because I'm going to have basically the ESPN graphics and going to be reacting to it live, but it's going to be based off of YouTube TV. So it's like this whole thing. Yeah, that's why I brought it up, is because I hate when people spoil picks before they're announced. That's kind of like a pet peeve of mine. I hate when Woj does that. I hate that, bro.
and like Westbrook says, not like fake spoilers are even worse.
Yeah,
like doing that will probably get you banned.
Yep. Appreciate, bro. Westbrook's such a great mod too. Like I just gotta give that man a shout out. Because he killed it last night, and I'm confident that he'll help us out tremendously tomorrow.
Trevin did awesome too.
Trevin too, yeah, for sure.
So Trevin had a good point. He says that guy actually sounds pretty accurate because having good takes is rare in the media. So Reese can't have good takes and be a media member, right? Especially
true.
in Portland.
No, bro. 20-year plan to just slowly infiltrate Blazers media. Reese is going to steal Chad's job 10 years from now. It's going to be beautiful. We're going to infect Blazers media, but it's going to be good. You know what I mean? That's the plan. Yeah. No, I just didn't get why you were doing it necessarily, Destrom. You can do whatever you want, bro. I was just like, why? I was just thought maybe you'd want to hang out with us and talk about the draft live with us, but you can do whatever you want, bro.
Oh, we didn't really take questions tonight, so I think we should take some questions.
5 minutes of questions. Let's go.
I know. So Alvaro and several other people want to know our feelings on the Aaron Gordon rumor. I know you think it's BS. You can elaborate on that for a minute.
Oh yeah, bro. Who was the guy who said that? It was some no name. Nobody ever has a great feel for what Portland's going to do. There's no rumors about Portland potentially trading for Covington until it was happening, until Woj was like, Portland is trading for him, right? Portland doesn't leak stuff. I also doubt that Orlando would leak them rejecting an offer like that. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make any sense. There's nothing to gain. Like, I don't expect that to leak, especially after the fact. Like, it's just, it doesn't make sense, bro. I don't trust that.
This is the only thing I can think of. Okay, they're trying to tell teams that are calling about Aaron Gordon that he's worth 2 first-round picks, right? Mm-hmm. And teams are like, "What the f? He's not worth 2 first-round picks. He sucks." Like, we're always like trying to buy low or whatever. I mean, they wouldn't say that to Orlando, but you know what I mean. And yeah, it's the Orlando now, by the way.
The Orlando.
Did you see that?
What?
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Nope. What?
So yesterday, real quick, Shams just tweeted out the Orlando. So like everyone was wondering, like, because he hit send before he finished the tweet or whatever. So so like everyone was wondering, like, oh, he's gonna tweet. There's a trade or something, and then he just tweeted out that the Orlando Magic signed Chuma Okeke to his rookie deal.
Oh yeah, I saw like something. I think I saw that as a response below, and I just didn't get it at all. Like, yeah, that's
and then
funny.
I think the Kings changed their name on Twitter to the Sacramento. Is kind of good tones.
Yeah.
But anyways, so my feeling is that they weren't getting good offers for Aaron Gordon. People were trying to lowball him, and then they were like, "What the heck? We think Aaron Gordon's has more trade value than Robert Covington, and he got 2 picks for him. Let's let's leak that they were offering us something similar to him, so maybe some team would be dumb and give us the same offers. That's more likely than us actually pursuing Aaron Gordon. See, the problem is Aaron Gordon, he doesn't have that bad of a contract, I guess, but it would have cost us a lot more player-wise than just Ariza. We would have had to attach another player or two to make that deal work. And I don't feel like that was... If we knew Rodney Hood was opting out, I don't see why we would take the risk of bringing on more salary and giving up 2 players to do so, and possibly like 2 picks on top of that. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm guessing we probably called at some point to ask about Aaron Gordon, which is kind of sucks, but. I mean, it's not the end of the world. Add this to the list of Olshey near misses, I guess, that worked out better for us that he didn't make for.
Yeah, I'm not adding it to that list because I don't think that ever happened. I don't think Olshey is that dumb. I think he's smarter than guys like the Blazers Outsiders host. But other questions, Wall for Westbrook would be... I don't know why. Like, are the Wizards trying to become the Rockets of the East? Like, I don't know, Beal and... Like, the worst version, though, because Beal and Westbrook is worse than Harden and Westbrook. I don't know. Like, that's one of those trades where it's just, like, for both teams, like, why? I guess if you can get, like, the 9th pick... If you're Houston, you could get John Wall on the 9th pick for Westbrook, you do that in a heartbeat. If you're the Wizards, like, that's disgustingly terrible for them to do.
If I'm the Rockets, I would absolutely trade Westbrook for John Wall, straight up.
Would you do Westbrook in 16 for John Wall in 9?
No, I wouldn't involve any picks. If they offered me Westbrook for Wall, I would accept it and thank my lucky stars that a team took him and we got... Because I can.
You would do Westbrook in 16 for Wall in 9?
No picks involved.
But that's better for them than just trading Westbrook for Wall straight up.
Okay, yeah, but I don't know why the Wizards would do that.
I feel like the Rockets would like ask for a little bit extra, and I feel like the Wizards would be willing to do that. Maybe. Like the Wizards aren't a well-ran team, and if they're interested in swapping Wall for Westbrook, like Wall has been injured the past 2 years, and he has a terrible terrible contract. So Westbrook has a little bit more value than Wall. Wall has like 0 value whatsoever, and Westbrook has a little bit. Like,
I know this is probably crazy, but I feel like Wall's going to have a better year next year too.
He potentially could, it's just like his injury history is just such a red flag that I think, honestly, if that happens, I expect it to be Westbrook in 16 for Wall in 9.
Yeah.
Which would be a great trade for Houston. They could get into the top 10 and they could legitimately take like a solid prospect there. And that's without even trading Harden. So... be interesting to see where Westbrook goes. I still have a feeling it might go to Charlotte.
Yeah,
and that would be funny. Yeah, Jordan is a terrible GM.
The funny thing is they basically have the same contract, 3 years left at almost exactly the same amount. So. Yep.
Anyway, you want to wrap this up? Any other questions you want to rapid fire answer? We'll wrap this up in a couple minutes.
Kendrick Perkins apparently picked us first to finish in the West. It's hard for me to judge any of that kind of stuff.
I heard him second or third, is what I heard.
I gotta see some actual like what's going to happen with all the teams, because some of the teams haven't even made moves yet. So
yeah, but I think like if we sign Millsap, I would potentially put us above Denver because they'd be losing Millsap and we'd be getting him. You know what I mean? Like, and Millsap's underrated. He struggled in the playoffs, but during the regular season, he was one of their best. He was like borderline as good as Jamal Murray was. The thing is, he isn't as flashy, he isn't like as much of a scorer, but he does like the little things to win you basketball games.
Yeah. XC Depp has a good point that it's possible that Olshey tried for Robert Covington earlier in the offseason, or like has called him a few weeks ago, but the plan wasn't to blow it up until a few days ago. So it's possible that they didn't think Robert Covington was going to be on the table, so they were looking for other options, which is certainly possible.
Do you believe we had a legit chance to win the championship if we get Millsap, Hood, Bielitsa from the Kings? If we got Millsap and Bielitsa, we would be borderline contenders, I think. Even if we kept Hood. That's kind of like best case scenario at this point.
We have the defenders to match up with the Lakers better.
Uh-huh.
We have
the outside shooting from the forwards.
Yeah. And honestly, 2 years ago, did we tie with Denver for the second seed, but we lost the tiebreaker or something?
It was something like that.
Or we were like a game behind them or something because they won on the last night. So like we were right there with Denver with like everyone talks about how loaded their team is and stuff. And I know that didn't include Porter Jr. and Bol and stuff, but those are like weird fits. I don't know if that necessarily raises their ceiling that much more. I feel like we're right there. At worst, I think we're better than the next tier of like Utah, Dallas, those kind of teams. I think we're definitely better than Phoenix and
I think we're better than Phoenix right now. Yeah. People are overrating them, man.
And then, like worst, I think we're fifth if healthy. And then with that roster, I feel like a lot of those teams, the Lakers with the shortened condensed season, the Clippers, they're not gonna risk having Kawhi and LeBron and stuff play all 72 games. So they're gonna load manage a lot. We know we don't load manage players. So.
Yeah. Home court advantage might matter next season.
Yep.
Just because like they're being played in the cities. But I mean, we probably shouldn't really talk about the pandemic, but it's good news. You know, you got two vaccines that are, studies say, are 90% effective. So maybe, you know, that's better than they thought these vaccines were going to be. So if they can be like widely distributed by potentially late April to May, the playoffs start late May, you know, probably not full capacity. We'll have to wait and see. We don't know how that's going to all play out, but you'll probably at least have some fans if there's like a widely distributed vaccine that's very effective by like late May. So first round, you could be potentially playing with at least, you know, 50% capacity or something like that. In that situation, home court advantage is going to matter.
Also, I think they announced that you were going to play your division teams 5 times, if I'm not mistaken. That's
really?
I think that's.
And
I think they decided to play the East 2 times, so that helps because the 10 games that we're losing are from the East, or from the West, not the East. And then, you know, we have OKC in our division, Minnesota. Both of those probably aren't playing playoff teams unless they make some major moves. So we get to 10 games against those 2 teams, whereas, you know, the Lakers have to play the Clippers and the Warriors and the Suns and stuff like that. And then, you know, Denver and Utah are tough, but I feel like we can compete in our division, possibly win the division. And then, I mean, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but I feel pretty good of where we're at if we make the necessary moves in the next 2 days.
Yeah. Playing division teams 5 times doesn't make sense because they said, I mean, like, that's, I'm not saying you're lying about the report. It's just like when I saw, it said 42 games against the West and 30 games against the East. That means we play East teams 2 times, 42 games against the West. There's 14 other teams in the West. You play them all 3 times. That's 42 games. Plus the 30 in the East. That's 72. Like, it's set up to be perfectly, like...
I think they were saying something like you play one division 3 times and one division 2 times. And
Yeah,
yeah, it's kind
I
of
don't know.
yeah.
Like, I don't know. Anyway, we will be live tomorrow, 3:30. If something pops off before the draft, even if it's not necessarily a Blazer trade, if it's like a big NBA trade, we could go live a little bit before that. But there is some prep work I gotta do tonight and tomorrow morning. I'm gonna try and finish it all tonight, but we'll see. But we will be live over on Blazers Uprise at 3:30 Pacific time, 6:30 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. Basically 30 minutes before the draft goes live. I'm very excited for this. It's going to be interesting to see how the first round looks like, especially the top 10 with some of the question marks about these prospects like Anthony Edwards. Oh my goodness, I can't get over that quote. So yeah, just stay tuned for then. Also, potentially stay tuned for an update on the website. Been trying hard to get it out. I've been texting my web builder is working on it at the moment as we speak, and it's very close. It's very, very close. So don't necessarily ask me when it's going to be out, because I don't 100% know, but we're trying to get that out. It sucks that we couldn't get it out by the draft, but he's working on it right now. So if I was on my phone, that's what I was doing. I was texting him. So anyway,
Better let's play a game of Among Us or something.
Yeah, if anybody wants to come game with us for a little bit, we have an Among Us. We play a lot of Among Us, me and the community, and we have a Discord for that, and we use mics and all that. So if you want to come chill with us and play Among Us, I will drop the Discord server. That's the invite to the Among Us Discord server we have. I just put it in chat for you guys. So if you guys want to join that, just click that link and you can come play with us. So we'll catch you guys tomorrow. Jam-packed week full of NBA action and streaming. Hope you guys are enjoying it. This is going to be exciting to see what happens next. Until tomorrow, hope you guys I really hope you guys tune in. I hope that stream's popping. I'm very excited for the graphics and stuff. So hopefully we will see you guys tomorrow. Until then, as always, peace out.